Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. We're excited to have Sandra Cummings from Equisys with us, and she's going to be presenting on Achieve More in Your Day with Zetadocs for Business Central. And I know you're all eager to get started with the presentation, so before I pass it over to Sandra, as a reminder, we are recording this session, and it will be posted to our on-demand webinar library for you to review again or share with anyone. And if you do have any questions during our presentation, please feel free to type them into the questions box, and we will get them answered during our Q&A time at the end of our session. And so now I'm going to pass it on over to Sandra to kick off our presentation.
That sounds great. Thanks so much, Angie, and thank you everyone for joining today. Appreciate your interest in learning about Zetadocs document management and expense management for Business Central. I am the account manager here at Equisys, and without further ado, I think we can just jump in and get started. With Zetadocs document and expense management systems, I'm going to show you today how our team can fully utilize Zetadocs to help all of our customers customize their business requirements in creative and flexible ways. I'd like to start with a quick poll. Angie, if you could launch that poll. And this is just an overall general question that helps us have a better understanding as our customers are moving over to Business Central. Are you satisfied with the document management functionality that is included in Business Central? And that would be yes, somewhat, would like more functionality, or not sure.
All right, we're done collecting those, Sandra. And 100% is saying not sure.
Yeah. That's what I thought might be the answers from the poll because it is so new and we're all getting used to working with Business Central. So what I'm going to show you today is how you can utilize Zetadocs within Business Central, and hopefully maybe that will help provide some clarity. So who is this for? The people that benefit the most from document and expense management solutions are most often Business Central and also NAV users, primarily those who are based in the office, and they use paper or shared network folders for a variety of reasons. Some questions to start off and just thinking about as I'm showing the functionality today is when it comes to storing documents in your office, does your organization face challenges because employees are not storing documents in the same manner so that they become difficult to find? We find most often when we're starting to have conversations with customers that is a primary motivation to move into electronic document management. And regarding sending out of NAV or Business Central, does your organization have challenges when it comes to delivering reports out of Business Central or NAV? And then on the expense management side, does your finance team get inundated with expense reports at the end of the month that need to be rekeyed into Business Central or NAV for processing? Over the years, we have developed techniques and solutions that have helped organizations tackle the challenges that relate to delivery, invoice delivery, employee expense approval, and allowing employees to be more productive by ensuring that they have access to the right information at the right time. Zetadocs software is an easy-to-use, affordable solution that exceeds the challenges of going paperless. Just a quick history before we jump into the functionality of Zetadocs Delivery and Capture. Equisys was founded 30 years ago, and Equisys is the developer of the Zetadocs software. Our headquarters are in London, and then we have a US office just north of Atlanta. In 2007, we introduced Zetadocs for NAV, starting with Capture and Delivery. And this came from conversations with customers and partners who were looking for a way to store documents directly into NAV records and to be able to batch send out of NAV. Zetadocs is now well established as a widely used document management add-on for both Business Central and NAV, with over 5,000 companies using it globally. With the development of Zetadocs, we were one of the very first NAV add-ons to achieve certified Microsoft Dynamics accreditation. We've been in the space a very long time, and we take that accreditation seriously every year. Moving now into the Zetadocs Capture piece of document management, and that's how you can store your documents directly into Business Central and NAV records. As we know, it can be really frustrating sometimes to locate a specific document from a directory that stores unstructured data. And this can and often does delay the retrieval process, especially when people are under pressure to get back to their customers and vendors quickly. The Zetadocs Fact Box allows you not only to easily store documents in records throughout Business Central and NAV, but you can also archive records so that the workflow of what you store flows through. So for example, we have customers that are storing documents in jobs, production orders, sales and purchasing records, journal entries, ledger entries, etc. And when they store those documents, they flow through the posting process. And I'll show you how that works. With Zetadocs to journals, for example, we have people storing documents in the purchase journal, general journal, cash receipts journal, and those documents then carry over to the corresponding ledger entry. So it's something to keep in mind when you're looking at document management systems. In addition, by applying searchable metadata, documents stored in the fact box within your Business Central or NAV records are also automatically stored outside of Business Central and outside of NAV in the Zetadocs Library and SharePoint online. This is a great, having the outside repository of SharePoint is a great way for non-Business Central licensed users and non-NAV licensed users to have access to those documents where they can easily search within the Zetadocs Library and SharePoint. All of the functionality I'm going to show you today is also available with the app. So with the Zetadocs app, you can store documents using your phone or tablet, and you can access documents within Business Central or NAV using your phone or tablet, as well as on your desktop or your laptop. And in addition to being able to drag and drop, which I'm going to show you, into those various records, there's also an ability to scan. So for customers that have a large number of incoming documents, for example, incoming paper documents like vendor invoices, using a network scanner, you can scan paper documents into NAV and Business Central, where they will follow your posting routine. And then moving over to the delivery side of Zetadocs, we often hear from our customers that sending documents out of NAV or Business Central is an important part of their business, as this is where they need to send quotes to generate revenue or send out invoices to receive payments. Think about how much time is taken up by generating invoices, processing invoices received, and chasing late payments. Using Zetadocs Delivery, you can send out your quotes, invoices, and other documents in a batch, as opposed to single send. So rather than creating that invoice and sending it out one at a time, with batch sending, you can simplify the sending of your invoices or other documents by sending them all at once. So all of your customers receive their invoices all at the same time with a very quick, easy batch send functionality. Utilizing Zetadocs and Business Central in tandem can help you get paid quicker, manage credit control better by batch processing invoices, and reduce delivery costs by sending paper invoices rather than via email. All of the batch sending capability that we have with Zetadocs includes the ability to personalize the content of your batch emails to match the documents that you are sending. You can also specify the sent from and sent to email address per document type being sent. And the word layout templates can also be configured in different languages. Performing batch delivery is great, but sometimes you may want the system to change behavior based on your requirements or your customer's needs. So with Zetadocs Library, we can also customize the software to automatically attach supporting documents to what you are sending. For example, on the collections management side, that can become more efficient because when sending out issue reminders or statements, we can configure the system to also attach the overdue invoices to those reminder letters and statements when they go out in a batch. Batch delivery can also be set up automatically with an automatic job scheduler. And with the activity log, you always have access to your batch history so that you can go back and see what went out, when it went out, and also what didn't go out. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and jump out of the PowerPoint deck here, and we're going to go right into our demo so that I can show you how this functionality works. Up here on the screen, I've got the sales order list page within Business Central. And over here is the Zetadocs fact box. And this is the key feature of Zetadocs. We put this fact box on your various records, and this is where you store your supporting documents as they pertain to the transaction. So over here, I'm going to just open up my Outlook. And I've got a PO here that I've received in an email. And I would just simply drag and drop that email with the attached PO into the fact box. And that's all you need to do. And that's how our customers are using Zetadocs Capture to store here in the fact box. So you can drag and drop the entire email. You can also just drag and drop the attachment. Either way, most often our customers actually like to drag and drop the entire email so they can look at the email history. Just now when I dragged and dropped this Canon Group purchase order in the example, this is in a PDF format. With Zetadocs, you can store all different document types here in the fact box. So in addition to the most common PDF or Word or Excel files, you can also store photos, recordings, video recordings, design specifications. There's a wide variety of different types of documents that can be stored here and viewed in the fact box, in addition to the most common PDF, Word, or Excel. I'm going to go ahead and minimize this here. Now, once you're in the fact box here, everything that has been dragged and dropped has also been automatically stored in the Zetadocs library in SharePoint as your outside repository. And I'll just do a quick jump over to the Zetadocs library in SharePoint to show you what that looks like. So we've set up a foldering system, typically based on document type, and then from document type, just going into the sales folder, for example, then we would have that listed by customer or vendor name. And then you can go in there and search for your sales documents. How we have it set up is when you go into the customer folder, you can search for your particular sales documents by the most recent date. And it's very easy for us to set this up, and it's very easy for customers to then go into the Zetadocs library in SharePoint and find those documents if they're not NAV or Business Central licensed users. It just gives you a quick look at how the SharePoint library looks and how we set that up when we're storing documents here in the fact box. Now, in addition to dragging and dropping, you can click on this little arrow here, and that'll take you out to a network folder. Once you're in a network folder, you can just click on a document that's in your network folder, and that's going to store here as well. So that's two different ways that you can get the documents in the fact box here, where then they can be opened and viewed by any NAV or Business Central licensed user. So there's unlimited view. The people that would need a Zetadocs license are only those that are dragging, dropping into the fact box here, or going out to the network and storing documents in the fact box. I did mention the ability to scan into the fact box as well. I'm going to come up here over to the search and show you what the Zetadocs document queue looks like. So let's go over here to the Zetadocs document queue. So what is the Zetadocs document queue? That is where scanned documents go into Business Central or NAV before they're then automatically linked to the appropriate record. So here's an example of different types of queues where our customers are scanning documents into the queue. And we've got them listed by, again, by document type: sales, purchasing, proof of delivery, shipping, multi-document. I'm actually going to go into the the file name document queue here to show you what that looks like. And here's an example of a few documents that have been scanned into that queue, which can then now be automatically stored in the fact box. And how that works on the scanning is customers, companies that use the file name prefix with software that saves files based on the record number can use that scanning function. An example of this is we have a customer with a pallet on a packing station. And on the packing station, they click a button that takes a picture of the pallet. The software knows what record number it was on. So it named the file with that record number, and the picture was saved into the Zetadocs queue, then archived directly to the Zetadocs fact box in the record. So here we go. We have an example of that here. The documents using that file name prefix with the software that saves based on record number were scanned into the queue here. And then all you would need to do is hit that actions at the top and hit queue, and then hit archive all. And once you hit this archive all linked items, these documents here are going to automatically store in the fact box of that record. With Zetadocs Capture Plus, we can apply an automatic job scheduler. So it's going to do that automatically. You don't have to have a user going in to the queue and going up here to the actions in the queue and having to click this button throughout the day. But we do recommend having users go into the queue and take a look at the queue maybe once or twice a day, just to make sure that everything is storing correctly. If we had something that held up and didn't automatically store in the record, maybe it just didn't read the prefix correctly or the barcode. So you want to make sure that someone goes in at least maybe once or twice a day to make sure nothing's held up. But you certainly don't have to go in here manually and do that. You can apply that job scheduler. So in addition to being able to scan in with your own scanning software, you can also use the Zetadocs barcoding functionality to get documents into the fact box here. And with that, we would apply a barcode label. An example of that is coming over here to purchasing, and let's go to purchase invoices. So when we get a vendor invoice in and we go to Business Central and we create that purchase invoice for the vendor invoice that we received, then we would just come on over here to the actions area and come over here to where I'm highlighting print barcode. And customers that use this functionality, they hit that print barcode label button here. And what the system is going to do is print out a barcode label representation of the purchase invoice number. And customers using this functionality just then slap that barcode label on the top page of the vendor invoice and scan it in. It goes into the queue like I just showed, and then you archive it all, and then it stores here in the fact box. So that's a brief overview of Zetadocs Capture. Lastly, in the example where I showed the documents stored, whether they're in a sales order or a purchase order, what we do is we apply record mapping so that when you are storing your documents, you only have to store them once and they flow through. Documents that are stored, for example, in the sales order, Once that sales order becomes a sales shipment, the documents are going to show up in the fact box on the sales shipment that were stored in the sales order phase. Once that becomes a sales invoice, a posted sales invoice, that posted sales invoice is going to have the fact box on it, and everything is going to be in that fact box that has been stored along the way throughout the sales order and sales shipment process. On the purchasing side, purchase order, everything that's been stored in the purchase order. When it goes to the purchase receipt, for example, the fact box will be on the purchase receipt. Everything will be in there automatically that was stored along the way. When it becomes a posted purchase invoice, the fact box is going to show up on the posted purchase invoice, and everything that's been stored in the purchase order phase and the receipt phase is going to show up automatically. And you can do this with ledger entries, etc. You can create, when you're creating a general journal entry, you can store documents in the fact box in the general journal, and then that will carry over to the general ledger entry. So there's lots of different ways that we can add that fact box and work with you on the record mapping so that your documents are stored and they flow through seamlessly. Zetadocs to Journals is a functionality that a lot of our customers are using, where they are storing documents in purchase journal, general journal, cash receipts journal, recurring journals, etc. So that gives you an overview on the capture side. I'll also now just jump into back to sales here so I can show you how you can send out a batch of invoices in the example of the batch send. So I just moved over now to the posted sales invoice page. And again, everything I'm showing today is in the Business Central environment, but this also applies to NAV. So I want to send out a batch of posted sales invoices to my customers. I'm going to come over here to the Actions tab, and then we can see we have the Zetadocs area. I'm going to hit the send. And once I hit send, I'm going to have this pop up that's going to ask me, okay, what do you want to send? So in the example here, I'm going to put in a range of posted sales invoices that I want to send out to my customers all at the same time. And there's all different ways you can filter this. You can do a manual range like I just did, or you can come on over to here and choose any of the various different filter options. Say we've got the example here, sell to customer number. You could have an unposted date. There's many different filters available to also apply to the batch send. I just put in a few of the invoices manually that I want to send. It's showing me, okay, here, this is what you chose. You want to send out in a batch. And now I'm going to hit OK. And when I hit OK, it's showing me, okay, yep, pairing your batch. And what it's doing, it's pulling all those invoices that I indicated that I want to send out in a batch. And now it's showing me, here's those invoices. And they're all going to go out at the same time, the company name, the contact name, the delivery method by email. Here we're showing, we're going to apply that sales invoice template that shows the the setup of the body of the email messaging and the subject line. We are going to be moving away from the template into utilizing Business Central Word layout to make it easier for our customers when they're creating templates for the batch send. And then, of course, here we see the email address. So it gives us all the information that we need before we are going to send that batch of all these invoices out at the same time. I'm going to come up here and hit that Consolidate Email button. And before I hit the OK, I'm going to take one more look at everything. And perhaps as the user earlier in the week, John Emery over at Canon Group had asked me to send these invoices. So I know I already sent them to him. I can hit this skip button here so that he doesn't receive them again. This is an overview of the batch delivery screen. I'm now going to hit OK. And when I hit OK, it's going to send everything out at the same time. Let's jump back into our Outlook here, and I'm going to make the screen nice and big. and we can look at an example of what one of those invoices looked like that went out in the batch. So this invoice that was in the batch, it went out to Andy Teal at the Canon Group using our template or word layout. We've already configured how we want the subject line to read, and we've also put in there how we want the messaging in the body of the email to read. And this is very helpful when you're sending out your batch so that it's all consistent. You don't have to worry about sending, adding any additional messaging that your user on your side might be unaware of. So what we're going to do is send this out to our customers. This is the body of the email messaging that they're going to see. This is the subject line that they're going to see. And at the same time, here's those sales invoices that we are sending out in the batch. And we've also attached a fixed document, a document that here is showing the conditions of sale. So often when you're sending out sales documents, sales orders, sales invoices, we have customers that also want to add a terms and condition of sale automatically, and we can do that with the system. Now we can also use Zetadocs Delivery Plus to dynamically send attachments. So I'm going to jump into this email here as an example of a reminder letter that we sent out. And this particular customer, they are overdue on these attached invoices. So we've configured the system to send out the reminder letter. It could also be statements if that's what you're using, to include the overdue invoices attached. And we've added verbiage in the template for the body of the email that is a little bit more stern. It's telling the customer, here's your final reminder. These are the overdue invoices attached. So we can work with you on how you want those emails to look when they go out in the batch send. With Zetadocs Delivery, you can go ahead, create a batch of invoices or other documents, send them out with a fixed document. You can also send out a batch of reminder letter statements or other type of records with dynamic attachments. Another example of this, we have a customer that sends out purchase orders in a batch. And when they're sending out purchase orders in the batch, we've configured the system so that line items of the drawings of the line items on the purchase orders are attached here. So there's lots of different ways that you can configure the system. So I'm going to jump out of here so we can get rid of that messaging that we're seeing there. And the last thing I wanted to show you today is with the batch send, coming back over here at the actions, on the actions tab, hitting that Zetadocs and going to the outbox. This is where you can research your batch after it goes out. So once I hit that outbox, if there was any of those emails that didn't go out in the batch, most often it's because it's an incorrect email address, that's going to show up here. Then you can see if anything didn't go out and address that issue. Going over here to the Actions tab and going over to Activity Log, now I can see my complete batch history of everything I've sent out and when I sent that out. Now with the Zetadocs Delivery, we can also apply an automatic job scheduler. So you can set a certain time of day that you want those batches to go out, and they'll go out. It's not that your users have to do it manually every single time. You can use that automatic scheduler as well. That gives you a brief overview of Zetadocs Delivery and Capture and how some of that functionality looks within Business Central and, of course, Nav as well. I'm going to minimize here out of the demo, and let's go back to the presentation. So before I move into Zetadocs Expenses, just a couple of poll questions to get you to start thinking about document management and how you would use it. We'll go to our first question. What types of reports would it be beneficial to you and your team to batch send to your customers? Invoices, sales orders, purchase orders, statements or reminders, shipping documents. These are the most common that we're finding that customers really would like to be able to batch send.
Okay, Sandra, 100% say invoices.
Okay, that's great. So hopefully what I've showed you today would provide that efficiency that you need to be able to send out multiple invoices all at the same time, and also have that functionality to send out statements or reminder letters or any other type of report with dynamic attachments. The functionality, of course, that I've showed will be in the recording, and you can always go back to it and take a look at it. Now, moving over to the capture side, which records in Business Central or NAV would your finance and warehouse teams use the most when accessing supporting documents within NAV or Business Central? Are you thinking that you would utilize more sales and purchasing records, journals, jobs, production orders?
And it looks like we got 50-50 for purchasing and production orders.
Wow, fantastic. Well, that's great. That's something to keep in mind then. So when you're looking at document management and the ability to store your documents, we have that flexibility and that functionality to add that fact box throughout NAV and Business Central. Thank you so much for answering the questions. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and move into Zetadocs Expenses. With Zetadocs Expenses, what we are going to show today is how customers are using Zetadocs Expenses to eliminate the rekeying that finance teams often do, while also making it easier for field teams to enter expense reports from the road. Zetadocs Expenses allows our customers to have greater control over their expense management process by allowing submitters to create very easily an expense report, whether it's using their phone or their tablet or their desktop, and then being able to send those expense reports to the approvers where they can be easily approved very quickly. Using the app, users can take photos of receipts and upload them directly to the expense. Approvers are notified and then can quickly approve credit card and mileage expenses. Zetadocs Expenses directly integrates with Business Central and with NAV. So as a result, your finance team doesn't need to take extra time to rekey expense information into Business Central or NAV because we have that direct integration. So what I've got up here on the screen is I'm going to be showing just a few screenshots of the phone app and go through the process of creating and submitting an expense report. When a submitter hits on the Zetadocs Expenses app on their phone or their tablet, they're going to see this screen here. Now, this same screen would be larger in the desktop or the laptop application, but we're finding that most of our customers use the app. That's what they want, is that mobility of the app when it comes to creating and approving expenses. So on the screen here, what the submitter would do is they would hit this new expense tab. And once they hit this new expense tab, it's going to open up so that they can then put in the details of their expenses. So moving over to what that screen looks like. Here then, the submitter would put in their description of the expense, the vendor, that, where that expense occurred, how they paid for that expense. In the example here, it's a corporate American Express card. The default is the USD, US dollar, and the expense amount. These fields can be customized based on your requirements. So for example, you can see under the vendor field here, we have a drop down. And that drop down is going to list all the frequently used vendors. However, they will self-populate. So if you're going to Starbucks a lot and you're expensing a Starbucks, you would just start writing in star and it's going to automatically show up Starbucks. In the payment method field here, there is also a drop down. So this way the employee can choose which payment method they use to pay for the expense. We can populate the drop down menu with all the different ways that your employees are spending. It can be a personal credit card, corporate American Express card, corporate Visa card, MasterCard, cash. All of those different options would be included in the drop-down menu, and then the employee would choose the appropriate one. For our American customers, of course, we have the USD dollar. For our Canadian customers, we would have this default to the Canadian dollar. There are many different currencies, again, in the drop-down here. So once we're past COVID and we're traveling again, for your employees that are traveling outside of the US to different countries, they would choose the appropriate currency and it would make that conversion. And then lastly, this is where you put the expense amount in. With Zetadocs Expenses, we will work with you to set up the system with regards to your corporate expense limit policy, so that when the employee is putting the expense, if they've exceeded their expense limit, they're going to automatically see this orange warning pop out, letting them know that they exceeded the expense limit in this example for the lunch. And you can have that set up for dinner, hotel stays, etc. So there's no guessing. Employees know that they've exceeded their limits. On the entry here, there is a notes section where they can then put in their business case to justify approving the amount here, even though they know they exceeded the expense limit. So you do have that additional functionality. And then lastly, we can work with you so that all of the expense types in the drop down here match the GL codes that you are using. So it can be client expense, it can be meals and entertainment, it can be office supplies, etc. All those different expense types we map with the GL coding, so that when the purchase invoice is automatically created, the correct GL code is applied. Other options here are dimension fields, a tax field, dimension fields. Most of our customers do use dimension fields to further itemize down that expense depending on the budget that it's coming out of. And we can work with you on the different type of dimension fields that you would like added. And then lastly here, now the employee would just take a photo of their receipt and upload it to the expense. They can also go out to their camera library if they had taken a photo of the receipt earlier and then choose that. At this point, they're going to then submit the report. When they are submitting the report, they're going to see this screen here showing them who their approvers are. You can have up to 5 approvers per employee. So the employee knows that Phyllis is going to be the person approving this report, and then she's going to send it over to April for final approval and processing. And you give you another option here, another opportunity to add more notes before it goes to the approver. Once the employee hits the submit button here, it's now going to go to the approver. So Phyllis is going to get an email letting her know that she's got a report to approve. And there'll be a link in her email. She would just click on that link. That's going to take her directly to the report, and she can approve it. And again, she can do that on her phone or her tablet or her desktop as well. Now, the example I just showed today is using a non-reimbursable credit card expense. Employees can easily go through the same process for mileage expenses. Either way, once the reports are approved with our direct integration into Business Central and NAV, we're going to create a purchase invoice for the reimbursable expense, and we're going to create a purchase invoice for the non-reimbursable expense. And here's an example of one of those purchase invoices and what that looks like. Now, with the direct integration into Business Central, most often our customers like to have that purchase invoice automatically created when the report is approved. We can also route this through jobs. We have several customers that would like the routing through jobs, so we can do that as well as automatically creating the purchase invoices. In addition to the ability to use the app and the ease of just creating that expense report and applying those dimension fields so that it's allocated correctly, we also have an additional series of new features that were recently added to Zetadocs Expenses. With the integration with Microsoft Power BI, Zetadocs Expenses customers can pull reports from expenses data. So we have a direct integration to Business Central and into Power BI. So you can pull, for example, if you want to pull reports based on submitter, you can do so. If you want to pull reports based on expense type, you can do so, etc. I know we're not traveling right now, but we have several Zetadocs Expenses customers that really like to use reporting, analyzing travel expenses and breaking that down by airfare, car rental, hotel, etc. Which, again, once we're past COVID, would be helpful. But there's many different ways you can pull reports out of that data that's in your Zetadocs Expenses system. The third integration that we have is with Google Maps. So when an employee is creating a mileage expense, they just put in their start date and their final destination date, and it's going to automatically create the conversion based on the mileage rate. So there's no guessing. The employee doesn't need to know what the mileage is. They don't need to keep track of the mileage. They just put in where they went to and where they went from to that address, and it's going to do all the rest of the work for them, which is great with finance teams when they're going through and processing expense reports. They don't have to worry about guessing on the mileage. It's all done with that Google Maps integration. In addition to the 3 integrations we have, we also now are offering single sign-on support using Microsoft Work or School accounts. This makes it easier for Office 365 customers to sign into Zetadocs Expenses using the same Microsoft account they have used throughout the day. This also makes it easier for IT staff to manage employee access to various corporate software. In addition, we have now added what we call our Canadian sales tax reclaim. So for Canadian customers, there's the issue when creating and submitting expenses of reclaiming the tax based on the province of where that expense occurred. With our Canadian tax reclaim, Zetadocs Expenses will pass over the amount to Business Central using the correct GL code and will calculate the tax percentage back. So that's a nice feature if you're a Canadian customer. So I think we got ready for our last poll question, Angie. As a review of what I've shown with Zetadocs Expenses, I'd like to know, what features are you looking for in an expense solution? Full integration, reporting, single sign-on, easy credit card reconciliation, automatic bank feed. These are often the 5 areas that I'm hearing are the most important to customers who are looking at expense management systems.
Looks like 100% is saying full integration, Sandra.
Okay, thank you, Angie. Well, that's obviously very key and that's important. So when you are researching your options with expense management systems, keep in mind and ask detailed questions about that full integration. With Zetadocs, we have that full integration that's included in the implementation, and our team has been doing this for a long time, and it can be done very quickly and easily. We have a set price for implementation, including that full integration, that is very affordable. So, when you're looking at systems, make sure you find out how they integrate into Business Central, if there's extra costs for that integration, and how seamless it is. and more than happy to talk to you about that on a one-to-one basis as well. So we know each company has its challenges as it comes to document management, storing documents and records, fast delivery out of Business Central or NAV, and with expense management. Our team here at Zetadocs can meet your requirements with the flexible solutions that we have available. If you would like to explore the functionality of Zetadocs further, I encourage you to reach out to your Innovia account manager. We can schedule a demo, a discovery call. They can send you quick product videos of what I've shown you today to review, and we can then meet to talk about your specific requirements. And with this, I've got my phone number and email address up on the screen, and I'd like to thank you all for joining today. I hope what I provided was helpful as you are looking at different options with document management and expense management. And we'll go ahead and we'll open this up to questions, Andy.
All right, great. Thanks, Sandra. We do have some questions that came through. The first one is, can Zetadocs Delivery handle sending a large volume of invoices on a daily basis?
Great question. Yes, it can. We have a customer that right now is processing up to 3,000 to 4,000 invoices a day, and the system can handle it. So depending on the volume of invoices that you want to send out, we can manage that with you with the batch send.
Okay, thank you. The next one is, can I use Zetadocs Delivery to send purchase orders with drawings of the line items attached?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You can send out purchase orders, the drawings and line items attached. You can send out, reminder letters or statements with overdue invoices attached. You can send out shipping records with additional shipping information attached. So there's definitely flexibility there with how you want to send dynamic attachments when you're batch sending out of NAV or Business Central.
Okay, thank you. And can I specify the sent from and sent to email address per document type being sent?
Yes, and that is a new feature that we are now offering to Business Central customers. Because sometimes you want that sent from address to show an individual, not a generic sent from address. In the past, we had set up the system so, for example, when sending out invoices, it would come from a generic accounting department address, which is fine. But we're finding that sales teams, when they're sending out sales orders, for example, or sales order quotes, or sales order confirmations or sales quotes, they want it to show that it came from that particular salesperson, and we cannot do that.
Okay. And do all Business Central or NAV users need a Zetadocs license to store documents in the fact box?
The only people that need a license are the Zetadocs license users. So I often get that question. I could be giving a demo to a customer and they'll say, well, we have 25 Business Central users. Do they all have to have a Zetadocs license? And the answer is no. The only people that need that Zetadocs license are those that are actually storing or sending out.
Okay, thank you. Next question, can you have multiple to email addresses for the delivery?
Yes, you can. You can. That would be set up in the customer card. And we set up in the customer card the email addresses, and you can have up to 5 of who you want those documents sent to. And it'd be based on document type. So we set that up for sales invoices when those go out. It would be set up, separately for purchase orders when they go out, et cetera.
Okay. Thank you. And a couple more questions. Can I store documents in other records like the item card, recurring journal, or custom pages?
Yes, you can. And the custom pages is a good question because we know that we've got several customers when they're setting up their nav or Business Central with their Innovia, they would sometimes want to have custom pages, and we can work with you on that.
Okay, thank you. All right, next question. Can you manage which customers want their invoices delivered via email through the batch and which do not want email?
Yes. So in the recipient screen that I had showed in the demo, once I created that batch, and then it shows, okay, here's everybody that's going to be getting those sales invoices, and I showed the option to skip one. There is a column there that is called delivery method, and we have it set up by email. We can include in there a print option, for example, so that if there's customers that don't want to receive anything by email, they'd rather receive those invoices by hard copy. That particular customer, those invoices are going to print out, and then you can mail them. And we can also set up the system so that there's a don't send button. If that customer, they don't necessarily want to receive a hard copy, they don't want the print option, but they also don't want to be included in the batch send on the email as well.
Okay, thank you. Great questions coming through. Can we send product-related documents like certificate of analysis, safety data sheet when sales order is posted?
So with the sales order, so if you're sending out the sales order and you want those attachments included, that would be what we call Zetadocs Delivery Plus. And Delivery Plus is where we work with you on those individual customizations.
Okay, thank you. If anybody has any further questions, please go ahead and type those in. I think we're almost done. I've got one more that I see. Is Zetadocs Expenses fully integrated into BC Cloud?
Yes, it is. And that's so important. And I know I had mentioned it in the expense management portion of the presentation today. We can do that integration with Business Central Cloud very affordably, and it's all part of the purchase of the system. It's not an additional cost, and it doesn't take any additional time. It can be done very quickly.
Okay, thank you. One more question. Do you handle all of the service work?
So we have our team that does implementation services, and the Innovia team also can do the implementation as well. So you can go either way. When it comes to implementing the software, the Innovia team is well versed, and we are as well. So either way, the services portion is met. On the tech support side, we have a U.S. Tech support team, and they're always available. During regular business hours, you can send an email if you have any kind of support issue, and they will respond promptly.
All right, well, thank you, Sandra, and thank you everyone for your questions. Great questions that came through. I just want to thank everyone for attending, or if you're watching on demand, thank you for taking the time out to join us. And Sandra, thank you for the presentation. I think everybody got a lot of good takeaways from it.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, Andy. Thanks, Angie, and thanks everyone for joining. I appreciate your interest, and I hope everyone has a great day.
All right, and if anybody has any further questions that you want to discuss, Sandra has her information up on the screen, or you can contact your rep here at Innovia Consulting, and we can discuss those further with you. And we do have more webinars coming up this afternoon. We have Kalumo presenting on top 5 corporate forecasting hacks used by your peers. And next Tuesday, we have 2 of our customer engagement specialists. We call them the Scotts, Scott Warner and Scott Borsodi. And they will be presenting on Is Your Software Lagging? Learn why more food distributors choose Business Central. So check out our website for more of our upcoming events, and that's inovia.com/events. And Inovia has a podcast. If you have not heard it already, it's called the Inovia Conversation. And we want to encourage you to listen to the selection that our hosts, Steve Waltz and Jeff Pergolski, have provided to us. You can find out about all the different podcast platforms to listen to on our podcast page, and that's inovia.com/podcast. So check out the selection and subscribe so you'll get notified when those new episodes air. And we have started a new round of training workshops for you and your team members to attend. Visit our training workshop page at inovia.com/workshops for more information and to register for the training workshop that fits your role. All right, everyone, thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you soon on another Inovia webinar. Take care, everyone.